The restaurant was one of those upscale modern establishments in downtown Los Angeles, where the air smelled of truffle oil and overpriced cocktails. It was a Friday evening, and the place buzzed with the chatter of Hollywood elites and executives, all dressed to impress. The dim lighting and jazz playing softly in the background gave the place an air of sophistication. At a corner table near the window, a lone figure sat quietly, flipping through a small leather-bound notebook. Clint Eastwood, the legend himself. At 94, he was a man of few words, but his presence spoke volumes. His weathered face and piercing gaze were unmistakable even in the low light. Meanwhile, a young waiter, barely in his 20s, stood near the bar, rolling his eyes. "I don't get the hype about these old actors," he scoffed to his coworker. "They had their time. Why do they still come out like they're relevant?" His coworker shot him a warning glance. "Dude, that's Clint Eastwood. Show some respect." The waiter shrugged, grabbing a notepad. "Whatever. Watch me handle this." As he approached the table, he put on his best fake smile. "Hey there, sir. You ready to order? Or do you need a little more time to remember what food is?" A few nearby customers glanced up, shocked at the blatant disrespect. Eastwood, however, simply looked up at the waiter with an unreadable expression. He let the insult settle in the air for a moment before speaking in that signature, slow, gravelly voice. "Son," he said, setting down his notebook, "you ever hear of something called respect?" The waiter scoffed. "Yeah, sure, but I also know Hollywood is a young man's game. No offense, but aren't you like 100? Don't you think it's time to pass the torch?" The restaurant had gone quiet. A few people watched the exchange, waiting to see how Eastwood would react. Would he lash out? Demand the kid be fired? Instead, he chuckled, a deep, knowing laugh that made the young waiter shift uncomfortably. "You think youth is everything, don't you?" Eastwood mused, leaning back in his chair. "That confidence, that arrogance, you remind me of someone I used to know, a kid who thought he had all the time in the world and all the answers." The waiter crossed his arms, unimpressed. "And what happened to him?" Eastwood fixed him with a steely gaze. "He learned the hard way that time humbles everyone." The silence that followed was heavy. The waiter felt his confidence waver, but masked it with a smirk. "Cool story, old man. So, are you going to order, or what?" Eastwood smiled, but there was something almost dangerous behind it, something that made the hairs on the back of the waiter's neck stand up. "Tell me, kid, you ever make a mistake so bad it changed your whole life?" The waiter hesitated. Can't say I have." Eastwood nodded as if he expected that answer. "Then let me give you some advice. The words you say today could be the regrets you live with tomorrow. I've worked with actors, directors, politicians, people who thought they were untouchable, just like you do now. And every one of them, at some point, realized they weren't. You might not respect me, but someday you'll wish you had the wisdom that comes with years." The young waiter swallowed hard. For the first time, he felt small. A slow clap broke the tension. A man at the next table, a producer who had been listening in, grinned. "Bravo, Mr. Eastwood. As always, you know how to deliver a scene." Other guests murmured in agreement. The waiter's face turned red as he realized his arrogance had just played him into making a fool of himself. He quickly jotted down Eastwood's order and hurried away, feeling the weight of every eye in the room on him. That night, he went home and did something he hadn't done in a long time. He looked up Clint Eastwood's movies. He watched Unforgiven, Gran Torino, and $1 Million Baby. With every scene, every performance, he started to understand what true presence, true talent, and true longevity looked like. The next day, he walked into work, still humbled. When he saw Eastwood seated at the same table, he didn't hesitate. He walked up, cleared his throat, and said, "Mr. Eastwood, I just wanted to say, I was way out of line yesterday. I watched some of your movies last night. I get it now, and I respect the hell out of you." Eastwood gave a small approving nod. "Took you long enough." And with that, the young waiter learned a lesson he'd never forget. Respect isn't just about who someone is today, but everything they've built over a lifetime.